Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Angie here. You're leading an AI company that is trying to transform a lot of what's been traditionally not as looked at in the tech space: physical retail, physical spaces, giving them marketing insights, taking advantage of the data that they can have through unique software. And right now, we're at a really interesting point in the AI revolution. We're trying to see where these practical applications will be, and you definitely have one. You have an interesting background in leadership as well, working in technology with Lyft and helping to deal with COVID and other areas too. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thank you. Great to be here, Ben.
Awesome. So how did your interest, originally in wanting to be a leader in the business world in general, like how did that passion of yours begin?
I guess I would go back to I started off in engineering school. I went to school for chemical engineering and I did not like it. So
Yeah.
that's maybe like one of the first lessons is, sometimes being interested and good at something, you go to school and you don't necessarily see a career for yourself doing it once you get in and learn the details of it. Luckily for me, I had a great opportunity with Anheuser-Busch. I made the connection somewhere in my senior year of college that chemical engineering also meant brewing. And one of the positions that Anheuser-Busch was hiring for was for entry-level management. And so I went straight into a leadership position with Anheuser-Busch, like managing brewing and shift operations 24/7, and just absolutely loved it and loved working with people, loved being a part of a team. And that's always been a guiding principle for me is that, you know, I've worked on a lot of different products and services over the years, and the thing that has always been the same or true is that it's an awesome team with a product that I'm excited about. And if those two things are true, then everything else is just details, you know?
So you're always looking to find that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I was never good at sports.
Yeah.
So, but what I say is like being part of a team and leading a team, being part of a team, accomplishing something together, I think is like, um, you know, probably what it feels like to be on a really good sports team. But
Mhm.
being part of any group that's trying to accomplish something, I think is really important. And also being a leader that can get the best out of people, like really look to see how teams fit together and make it part of the job, which is to create the most high performance team by unlocking people's skills that maybe they didn't even know they had, building that confidence um and working together to me is like the most fulfilling part of the job.
That's great. That's definitely an important aspect of it, the teamwork, the collaboration, for sure. So, how did you kind of get started in business leadership and getting, you got some incredible roles pretty early on. What did it take to go and break into the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that's always been really important for me is it's always been about the work, not about the career path.
Mm.
And that's not always advice that people get. Like, I remember early in my career just having exposure to some people that it's super impressive when someone has a very clear career path and goal in mind on where they're headed. That just was never me. Um, I didn't have aspirations to be a CEO. That wasn't something that I said, like, oh, one day I want to be able to do that. For me, it's been more about the work and focusing on getting the work done and just being the best that I could at whatever position I was in. And then being open to opportunities as they, came up or I could pursue them. And I think that's what's been really transformative in my career is one, always being willing to do the work to learn about the company that I'm in, the team that I'm in, do the work, make sure that we're accomplishing and delivering results. And then also not being afraid to take risks and make leaps when opportunities present themselves, not getting too comfortable taking those risks. Because a couple of times in my career that's happened. I mean, um, I've talked previously about the move from being in large CPG companies, Anheuser-Busch, Sara Lee, Fresh Bakery, and then having an opportunity to move. My first, I call it my gateway startup, was HelloFresh. and,
Yeah.
and I heard about this cool thing, meal kits coming out on the market. And I was like, and I just really want to be a part of this. I think it's going to be so awesome. But I'd already worked for, 13, 14 years, maybe more than that, building my career on the CPG manufacturing side. And so taking this leap over into a startup, being on a team, going from a team of 800 plus to a team of 8 is, and in a pretty substantial pay cut, as you're going to an earlier stage company, was something that I had to really, get outside my comfort zone and say, do I feel comfortable doing this? But that leap was absolutely game changing in terms of the trajectory of my career after that. And I found that, as much as I really loved and thrived in those larger companies that I worked in, the fast paced and sort of organized chaos, maybe a little bit of earlier stage companies was a great fit for me. And then being able to sort of apply what I had learned at these big companies and bringing that insight into earlier stage gave me a unique perspective over folks that maybe had mostly just spent their time in startups. And so that's really for me, like most of the time, I never had an idea of the next promotion in mind. I never focused on the promotion. I never focused on the career trajectory as much as I did on working hard, delivering value, learning my business, and making sure that that was what I was focused on.
Mhm. So why specifically AI now? Like what drew you to the AI revolution to want to be involved in it?
I mean, isn't everybody interested in it?
Of course.
uh, I mean, from my perspective, I'm a very curious person, right? So I think that's part of why I went into engineering initially. Is I like kind of thinking about how things work, learning about the next new thing. That's always been what has also sparked my interest, but most importantly in the application to physical spaces. So a big part of my career has always been at the intersection of technology and physical spaces. And when I learned about autonomous checkout and computer vision, and as that applies to physical spaces, I was most interested in about the data and insights that computer vision unlocks, because right now, huge focus on generative AI and LLMs, which is, really interesting. And I'm like a super user of ChatGPT, love it. So all of those things are important. But when you think about actually engaging with a physical space, what computer vision does by using cameras and videos and that application of AI is for me what takes physical spaces to another level, just being able to like reimagine what's possible. So that became super exciting for me.
Mhm. And what would you say, Angie, are like some of the ways that physical spaces can be completely changed by AI? Like from maybe a data perspective, the insights you can get. How does standard AI really improve these physical outlets?
I mean, this is where, so once again, having spent a large portion of my career in CPG and supplying to especially the grocery industry, I know how challenging it is and how many, like it's just it makes it such a fun industry to be in, but lots of challenges in the physical world. And when I think about that and how um, you know, I say there's like already a playbook out there on what happened with e-commerce. So when you think about e-commerce, and I was, around when it came about. And so I remember like buying things online for the very first time. And you think about e-commerce, like the first thing that happened is, you know, companies stood up websites similar to the way they thought about brick and mortar. But then we started getting Google Analytics and different analytics for websites, realizing that you can actually track and see how people are interacting and engaging with your website. So you think about digital impressions, think about how often you're hovering on a certain page, and then that data, how it's used for companies in order to rebuild or get more creative about how they're surfacing data. Then that, of course, led to the unlock of personalized ads, which, at first, years ago, when personalized or when ads came out, they were like not personalized and very spammy. But then now they're super curated. I mean, I 100% use personalized ads for all my shopping. Love it. It's like I'm in the market for something, I search it. Now everything that I see on Instagram and Facebook for like 2 days is telling me exactly what I should buy. And it's perfect. It does all of the comparison for me. Or you even think about some of the, on Amazon when you're buying and you can compare products in real time. still, when you look at brick and mortar, like more than 80% of shopping is still happening in stores. And I think that's a misconception that's out there, because we know that, especially through COVID, third-party apps and, delivery service, curbside, all of that did get more traffic, and it is something that's being used more, but still 80% of the time people are going to a store. And that's because that's where purchasing decisions are being made. So now when you think about what happens when you overlay computer vision into a physical store to give you that same data and insights that is available in a e-commerce website, the unlock, you know the story from there. So you can apply that same playbook and start thinking through it. I think privacy is really important. All of our technology is completely anonymous, no facial recognition. So making sure that that's a key part of any technology that we build. But by providing these types of insights, which before weren't possible, because when you think about a physical store, the only thing that retailers currently know is traffic, like how many people are coming in the store, and then what they purchased. But they
Mhm.
don't know what they're doing in the store to engage with the product, to where they're focusing their time, how they're shopping, what they're shopping for. And so what we see our technology doing is being this platform that sits on top of all of that and just gives brick and mortar a bunch of capabilities that were once only available to e-commerce.
Mhm. And like, I mean, are there like specific examples, Angie, of like stores that now, because they've had all this data and all this insight, they've been able to really increase their ROI, or just it's changed the way that they're able to be in business?
Yeah, there's lots of things. So anywhere from one, so I call this is the operator in me from like years of being on the operations side, but I call this ground truth integration, because for anybody that's ever run in operations or done anything in a physical space, we all know how important it is to just get out and see what's actually happening. Like, so many people get wrapped up in their spreadsheets or whatever, and you think you know what's going on, but not until you go out in the store or in the actual physical space can you see what's really happening. And so, just down from the basic level, foundational to any tech that we install, is out of stock notification and planogram compliance. So planograms are something that means there's a ton of time and energy and research going into exactly where products are placed in the store, and there's plans for that. But many times, for variety of reasons, they're not adhered to. So if you're a supplier that's expecting it, your product to be merchandised in a specific way, and you're interpreting sales data based on that, and it's actually not being merchandised that way, it's giving you false information. You don't really know what's happening on the store. Same for out of stocks. If you're trying to understand why your product isn't selling as fast or the velocity slowed down, but turns out it wasn't on the shelf, those are things that are super important. That's very basic. But at a higher level, we've been able to give some of our customers, for example, when the out of stock happens, what does the customer do instead? Are they leaving without buying something? Are they going to a competitor? And, or are they buying a different product within your portfolio? That information is really important. Once again, in interpreting your sales data, supply chain, all of those things. The other thing we've been able to show is how, like, where is the best place to put a new product placement.
Huh.
So if you're watching customers engage in an aisle, where is actually the best place to capture them? And so we can do in physical space A/B testing, which has not been previously available, where almost in real time we can move displays around and show you the impact on what customers are going to do and how they're going to engage with that product. So this for me is just about providing data
Mm.
where now you can really quantify and interpret what's happening in that store with real data that was never available before, and would mean that you just have to rely on assumptions, right? So that's the way that our customers are using it right now. I think there's a lot of really interesting applications that we're talking to some customers about with retail media. And, if you think about, you know, impressions, digital impressions, that's how ads are valued. That's how content is valued, is how many impressions you get. Well, now we can tell you, based on if you decide to put an ad in a store or a physical space, we can actually measure the impressions that you received against it. And that's way different than traffic distinguishing. So you'd always be able to tell how many people walked by it. But with our technology, we can distinguish, was that an employee? Was that person actually facing it versus just walking by? Do they have dwell time? Did they engage with it? So the level of detail that we can provide is significantly more precise, and that matters. We've done heat maps where we'll show traffic through a store, and then we'll show impressions through a store and the same sort of overlay with the heat map. And you will find a completely different place in your store is
Wow.
actually where like customers are spending their time. It's very misleading to look at it only from a traffic perspective. It's like missing a big piece of the puzzle.
So how does the technology that you guys have work?
The way that it works is we use through security cameras. So if you have modern security cameras in a store, because we don't want to add additional friction or bring additional cameras than what you already have, and we'll probably add some cameras based on where we're trying to focus in a store, but that's it. So we use the feed from the security cameras. We apply our AI algorithms to that with some compute in the store, and then that data is what we're able to analyze. So this is where AI comes in, and it's such a cool application because what you're doing is taking what traditionally humans would try to get through security footage by watching it, and you're able to process, you know, tens, 20s, hundreds of cameras of video at one time and get insights from it using AI. Whereas otherwise, it would require a person studying all of this at once and coming to some kind of conclusion, which is why, there's some companies out there that do that. They'll use humans and security cameras to do certain projects and get information. And often that means you're waiting 8, 12 weeks to get those insights. And they're, not probably as reliable or have as much information as what we can provide in almost real time. Right. So this is the beauty of AI that just wasn't available before, applying it to computer vision, all of that processing power, giving us insights that you wouldn't be able to do with just the human eye.
Totally. How do you plan on scaling this now? Like, what would you say are the target the target retail outlets you really want to focus on?
We're starting right now mostly in grocery. That's our focus because we just think this is such a great opportunity to show both the impact for the customer and then also on brands through supply chain, how people are moving throughout the store. And we know this is such a still important part of shopping behaviors for our customers. But really, we see after that, like all of retail is very interesting and has applications. In fact, even beyond retail, we're starting with retail, but there's certainly applications to this technology from anywhere from manufacturing to, safety applications in cities and things like that. So, but retail is where we're starting. We think it's got a lot of, interesting unlocks and insights to provide.
100%. Yeah. So you're at a point now where the AI field is something that's pretty new, and people are wanting to be interested in the space, wanting to get into this space. How do you see like AI becoming more practical in general? Like, where do you see the AI landscape shifting towards?
Yeah, it's so interesting because the trajectory that AI is following is like light speed on every levels. You're seeing us move through adoption phases so much faster, and already, it's really only been. I mean, AI has been around for a very long time, but sort of the explosion in today's in this new way has been in the last, year and a half, and already we're moving from showing capabilities to delivering value, and it's got to have a real world application or there's not interest to it. So you know what I one of the great things about AI and technology is there's so much ability to build and use open source code, and it's very inclusive in that way, and that you can a lot of different people can participate and be involved in the AI industry. But the thing that's really important is being able, especially as a customer, to distinguish between somebody making claims about capabilities and then
Yeah.
someone who's actually delivering what they say they can do. And I think that's where you're starting to see AI companies differentiate from them, from each other right now. Is we've been around for 7 years, so our tech stack is very mature. Um, We don't open source anything. Like, it's all built and optimized in house. So we can very, very confident about what we're delivering. And when you're delivering a product to an industry, very well established industry like retail, their expectations are that you're going to deliver, I mean, as they should be, that you're going to deliver on your promise and that you're going to have the accuracy and the capabilities that you said. And so, I think for all of tech companies out there looking to do something, you really have to make sure that you understand your customer and that you're delivering value to them, that it's not just about the technology. And that's really the shift in the conversation that you're hearing right now. Is initially, whereas it was like just being able to show that your tech worked was enough to, maybe fund an entire company. And there's still some out there that are doing that, and that are doing like really innovative things. But for the most part, you got to be able to deliver ROI for your customer. And you have to show them exactly why this application of AI is better than what they're getting now. It can't just be for the sake of using it. It's not a feature, it's a tool. It's going to be embedded in almost everything we do. A lot of the conversations that I've been having are like, you know, kind of takes you back to just, cloud. Oh, what's your cloud strategy like back in the day? And then it's like, it just becomes the way business is. And that's really what's happening with AI is it's going to be embedded in almost every aspect of our life and technology, as long as it is delivering value and doing something better than we had without it.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. It's all about giving value. That's the only way things will last. And anyways, how you'll retain, a customer in the AI space.
Absolutely.
You got to keep giving it value. Just the last question they have, what do you aspire to do at this point now? Where do you see standard AI going yourself? Like, what are some short-term, long-term goals that you have?
Yeah, I mean, so as you know, we start off an autonomous checkout company, and so we just pivoted as a company in this year. So we announced March externally that we were no longer pursuing autonomous checkout, that we were fully going forward with insights and data as our primary product going forward. And that's been, an exciting and challenging pivot to make. There's a lot of companies out there that have been in a similar space where you're actually using the same tech stack, but see a completely different commercialization for that same technology. And that's where we're at, is demonstrating what this technology can do and how it delivers real ROI. So, we've just started bringing on our first customers. And what we're focused on right now really is just delivering our promises and showing customers now that it's a new data set that wasn't available before. And so you do have to get over that hurdle of like, do I even need this data set? If I think that I'm making, I've got everything that I need right now, what does this new data set give? And so showing the industry what we can provide and then how that transforms your business is a partnership. It's a long relationship. And our goal is now to start just unlocking all of these capabilities across everything from in-store operations to supply chain to marketing, and doing that with some really key customers that we've started to have conversations with. So it's been great.
Well, I'm excited to see how this pivot plays out and where it goes. I think that it's a really great niche that a lot of people need these insights in retail, and retail could use as much data as possible to actually compete with e-commerce and maybe even be better. So it's
Yes.
definitely the value makes sense, and I wish you much success with it.
Thank you.